sitting down and singing it. So we're going to, and we're going to be starting with this. You can invite you to clap if you want to. And I think it's always good to move a little bit. We invite you to sing quietly behind your masks. We rise, humbly hearted, rise. We won't be divided, rise. With spirit to guide us, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we right here. In hope and prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we right here, and we rise. All of the children rise. Elders with wisdom rise. Ancestors surround us, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we right here, and we rise, committed to justice, rise, helping each other, rise, building our future, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we right here, and we rise, humbly hearted, rise. We won't be divided, rise, with spirit to guide us, rise.
Okay, heartbeats up, light streaming in. Welcome to the Westside Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I'm Lisa Reitzes, a member of the worship team, and it is my great joy to be gathering with you today, this day, with our guest speaker, the Reverend Margo Rinehart. Yay. Scott Farrell, John Hanson, and Larry Jones are providing music. Jill Jackson will be lighting our chalice, and Reverend Margo will be sharing our time for all ages. Henry Sikora and Nate Mesnard up in the booth are our tech experts managing the AV here in the sanctuary and bringing us together virtually with you out there. And for the gifts of all of these folks, we are grateful. It is a blessing to be able to worship together and to be here with all of you today. If you're with us for the first time or the first time in a while, welcome. We're so glad you're here to share in this time, to make some space in your life to attend to your heart and your spirit, to come together in this community. Please visit our website or scan the QR code in the pews to fill out a Getting to Know You welcome form so we can send you our weekly electronic newsletter, The Westside Week, which is full of information about upcoming worship services and other virtual activities. And not virtual, actual in-person activities. We hope you'll join us after the service for conversation and community up here, perhaps downstairs in the fellowship hall, catching up with everyone and seeing warm faces on this brilliant summer day. We gather today from many locations when we come together both remotely and in person, many locations, and we take this moment to particularly acknowledge that our congregation resides on the traditional territory of the Duwamish people. In this acknowledgement, we recognize the Duwamish heritage imbued in the mountains, valleys, waterways, and shorelines that surround us all. May we nurture our relationships with our coastal Salish neighbors, especially the Duwamish people, and our shared responsibilities to this place. Let's take a moment to offer humble respect for this place and its peoples and renew our commitments to the work of authentic reconciliation. Whoever you are, wherever you have come from, whatever the color of your skin, whoever and however you love, however your body moves and your brain works, however you identify, you are welcome in this faith community. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition has no test of faith, no creed or oath to swear. We have instead the promises we make to one another, commitments we make to heal a hurting world within and beyond our walls. It's so good to see all of you this morning, and some people I haven't seen in a really long time. That's terrific. So let's take a moment to greet each other, those around you, in whatever way feels right and safe for the both of you or for all of you. A smile, a wave, an elbow bump, a hug, if it's good for both. Say hello. It's a sound I love, the sound of those connections being made. Our guest speaker today, the Reverend Margo Rinehart, was formerly, as many of you know, the ministerial intern here at Westside in 2017 and 2018, and she stayed in touch with our congregation. In fact, she was here remotely with us about a year ago and is excited to be with us again. In the past 2 years, Reverend Margo has served the UU Fellowship in McMinnville, Oregon, and will begin serving the UU Fellowship of Bozeman, Montana as their interim minister in August, in just a few days. She continues to keep a home base in the Puget Sound area even when serving out of state, and engages in play through music, cycling, art, nature, and conversation. So good to see you. Would you offer our opening words? Whatever words you'd like.
All right, yes. It's true. I was the intern here. I left here, I think, in August of 2018. What does this mean? You can't hear me? Oh, no, it means yay. So, and I certainly recognize a lot of faces, but there's new people too. So just know I'm so excited to be here. And to help us kind of move into this mood of being together and thinking about play, I'm going to just read a super short piece from Wendell Berry, the poet. When despair for the world grows in me, I go down where the wood drake rests in beauty and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of the wild things who do not tax their lives with forethoughts of grief. And I feel above me the stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world, and I am free. So may our time together this morning bring about that feeling of peace and grace in the world and knowing we are free in this moment here.
Thank you. In each week's service, we invite a member of our congregation to light the chalice of our shared Unitarian Universalist faith, our beacon of hope, our call to justice and compassion. Today, our chalice lighter is Jill Jackson. Jill was going to say she's from California, which is true, but she's now lived in Seattle longer than she's lived anywhere else. Jill and her partner, Lisa, chose Seattle 21 years ago for a new job and to be closer to family. It was an excellent decision, she says. As was joining Westside. For most of her life, Jill has been a member of a religious community, but she doesn't particularly believe in God. She does, however, believe there is value in being a part of a community that is trying to make sense of the world and that is creating meaning in the world. So we're asking all of our chalice lighters right now to respond to the question, what gives you hope? Jill?
Hope. What gives me hope? Yesterday, as I shared with Liz, it was completing Wordle in 2 lines. That doesn't happen very often, which really, in essence, is what gives me hope. Change. Things change. I'm not a Pollyanna, nor am I naive that things will always get better, but they will change. Change will happen because of us humans. Change will happen because of forces of nature. Change will happen because of the passage of time. And we will adapt, object, celebrate, try and figure out what it means, and do the best we can to create a world that makes sense to us and we want to live in. That gives me hope, because it means that you and I are alive, we are engaged, and we will change the world around us, and it will change us. For me, that is hopeful, because on balance, I am an optimistic person, and I am interested and curious to see what's next and to keep growing.
Thank you, Jill. And as Jill lights her chalice, please join me in speaking the words of our congregation's affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with one another. Thank you. Our opening today is one of my very favorites in the Gray Hymnal. It's based on music by the 15th century choral composer Josquin des Prés, using a text by Hildegard von Bingen, a 12th century mystic, hymn writer, scholar of medicine and natural history, painter, and poet. She founded and served as an abbess of a convent and also traveled widely in Germany and France, speaking to people of all classes about her visions of the relationship between God and humanity. When I suggested this hymn, Reverend Margo said of Hildegard, she knew how to play, always giving the church leadership a really hard time.
Beautiful. So we invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing this hymn, I Am That Great and Fiery Force. And it's been sung, sometimes it's sung slowly, but I kind of like it being full of fire. So we're going to sing it fairly briskly. So. I am that green and fiery force, sparkling in everything that lives, in shining of the river's course, in greening grass that glory gives. I shine in glitter on the seas, in burning sun, in moon and stars, in unseen wind, in verdant trees. I breathe within both near and far. And where I breathe there is no death, and meadows glow with beauty's rife. I am in all the Spirit's breath, the thundered word, for I am life. Thank you.
Thank you, John and Larry and Scott. And it is now our time for all ages. So anyone of any age who wants to be closer to hear and see this story from Reverend Margo, please come join her up front behind the tape line. Come sit on the floor if you're comfortable there. And we will have a story.
I'm actually not going to read this book. I am going to get advice from my audience up here. And twirling will be optional. So yeah. And, you know, if things come across my questions that you just feel the need to yell something out, go ahead. So I'm actually, as you might have heard, I used to be an intern here a long time ago. Well, not that long ago, 4 years ago. So some of you will remember me and some of you probably don't. But I used to sit right here, and this feels like home to me. So when I got invited to come and talk to people, I thought, I want to talk about play. I want to talk about how important play is for our brains and for our hearts and for our bodies. And so one of the things, so I'm going to have to talk to the adults about play. And one of the things is adults don't get enough playtime. So I was hoping maybe I could get some advice. So what do you think adults get stressed about? Getting the dishes done. That's a big one at my house. Getting ready for school on time. Is that a big stressor? Gotta get our backpack, gotta get our lunch, gotta get out the door. Yeah. Yeah. Work. Adults stress about work. Adults also stress about, can they get everything done? Like, can they get the laundry done? Can they get the groceries in? Can they get dinner? Yeah, those kind of things. And sometimes I think we stress about if there's somebody in our family who's not feeling good, then we're worried about them. And they might be somebody who lives in our house, or it might be somebody who lives in another state, far away. And during COVID, adults stressed about, is everybody going to be okay? Before we had that great thing called vaccinations. So I wonder, what do kids stress about? Getting to school on time. Adult stress. Kids stress because the adults around them are stressed. for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I know, because the kids can sometimes worry when they don't know what's going to happen next. They see all this busy activity and know something's going on, but they don't know what might be next. When I was a kid, I would get really worried if I had an argument with a friend. I would worry that, does this mean our friendship is over? One of us would be in tears, maybe somebody. And it usually ended up being just a big misunderstanding, and we could say we were sorry and we could start again. But I remember that being a pretty big worry in my elementary school days sometimes. And again, of course, in high school, exponentially. Yeah. So what I'm telling the adults this morning is playing is the best thing we can do to get rid of our worries and to take a little time for ourselves. So I wanted to hear about your summer. Are you getting any good playtime in this summer? Yeah, the beach. Yeah. Riding bikes. Without training wheels? Did everybody hear that? That's a pretty exciting thing. I was so proud of myself when I got my training wheels off my bike. I'm actually going to talk about that later. Does Lincoln Park still have a pool? Yeah. How many people have been to Lincoln Park this summer? Yay. Any playtime with friends? No, I know friends sometimes in the summer, they go away and they go on vacation, they go see grandma and grandpa, so there's not always time. Yeah. All right, so I also wondered if we could tell the adults, how does play feel? Like when we're riding that bike, training wheels or no training wheels, what does that feel like? I think, can we do the twirling now? Anybody up for some twirling? All right. I want just socially quasi-distance twirling. Anybody who would like to twirl out there, the aisle is available. I want everybody to notice, what does this feel like in your body? Woo! And you can make those fun noises. Yay! Wow. She's got twirling and dancing. And twirling in pink shoes. Yeah, because you know what happens, at least to the adults, I don't know if it happens to kids too, is your head. Does your head feel any different? My head feels kind of lighter. And do your arms feel any different? And did I forget about everything else going on because the twirling just felt so good? I think that's the magic that happens in the play, is that we can forget about all these other things that are bugging us. So it's time to go to class, but before that happens, anything else you want to say or share? Thanks for helping us out, because now I know a little bit more about what to say to the adults later.
Thank you, twirlers and arm flappers, and thank you, Reverend Margo. So there are no RE activities today, so everybody can return to their seats in the pews, and we will sing together to each other as you go.
We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go, to nurture the spark of your precious love. We hold you in our love as you go.
Thank you. In a moment, we will engage in a collective act of generosity known as our offering. when we take time to actively support Westside UU and its many ministries with our gifts by text or by check or by cash. Each month, we choose a community organization to share 1/3 of our undesignated offering gifts. That is, those donations not designated as your pledge contributions. For the month of July, our community giving recipient is the Ingersoll Gender Center. Ingersoll Gender Center is one of the oldest organizations by and for transgender and gender nonconforming communities in the United States. Officially formed in 1977, Ingersoll Gender Center has been building community, connecting folks to resources, and advocating for our communities in the Puget Sound region for over 4 decades. The work of the center prioritizes these 4 values: courageous authenticity and radical inclusivity, anti-violence, compassion and empathy, solidarity, and all of these in the pursuit of our collective self-determination. So you can give by text by sending a message with the $ in the amount you want to give to 616-404-4171. If you need to update your payment information, text update to that same number. For folks who are here in the sanctuary and prefer to share your gifts by cash or check, our greeters will be moving among you with baskets, or you may use the box at the back of the sanctuary to submit your giving. If you'd like your gift to be recorded as coming from you, please use one of the envelopes in the pews. As we extend our generosity together, please enjoy this gift of music from John and Larry. Thank you to everyone for giving as you are able to support Westside and the Ingersoll Gender Center. Your dedication of time, treasure, and presence are gifts that sustain us as a community. Each week, we come together as a congregation to connect in all of the ways that we can, to share that which matters most to us. At this time, we make collective space for holding our joys and sorrows. We know there are so many joys and sorrows out among us. There are celebrations, there are grappling with medical experiences and changes, there's good news and not so good news. And there is the world, which is hard right now, and in waves of hard right now, on so many levels. So we know that among us, there is so much that we carry, and that we can feel grateful and know that we can reach out, put up a hand, and say, help is needed. and help will be there. So let us now, in a moment of silence followed by music, hold in the tender vessel of our loving care all the joys and sorrows, both known and unknown, of our beloved community.
There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love.
Let's just pause for a moment and close our eyes. Let's just notice the little sounds. There's a little traffic going by. There's sighs. There's breathing. There's little crackles and squeaks and voices. Those are the sounds of life. Let us just rest in this moment of life. Before you open your eyes and before you come back to the room, I want you to picture a stream going through a green field. It's a big stream. It's not quite a river, though. And it drops off. And I want you to see a really big bird, like a heron. And that heron is beating those majestic wings. And it does a loop in the air, I mean a full loop, and flies on out of your sight. Let us give thanks for all that is our life. Amen.
So when I first heard what Reverend Margo's topic was going to be today, play, or the significance of play and how we work with play in our lives, I thought, well, what is play for me, and what happens with me with play? And imagination and curiosity are really they live in the same place as play does. And it's like, what is life? How do I get to know? And I've spent a lot of time in my life with the teachings of Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell, and our mythology is very rich with sirens. It's very rich with so many archetypes that, for me, represent parts of myself. And so that also goes for our popular stories, and one of those stories is Tarzan. And Tarzan, for me, represents that primitive part of ourselves, that is very innocent, but still wants to find out about life itself. Is very curious. It's sort of living in this isolated, beautiful existence. But then there's something that comes into our life that says, pay attention, something new is happening. And so I thought about, what would be a good song for that? And then I thought, my student Carlos, my longtime student Carlos, has worked with this song called, it's from the movie Tarzan, written by Phil Collins. So he's going to sing this for us now. It's Strangers Like Me by Phil Collins, sung by Carlos Barajas.
Whatever you do, I'll do it too. Show me everything and tell me how. It all means something, and yet nothing to me. Oh, I can see there's so much to learn. It's all so close, and yet so far. I see myself as people see me. Oh, I just know there's something bigger out there. I wanna know, can you show me? I wanna know about these strangers like me. Tell me more, please show me. Something's familiar about these strangers like me. Gesture, every move that she makes me feel like never before. Why do I have this growing need to be beside her? Oh, these emotions I never knew, from some other world far beyond this place, beyond the trees, above the clouds. Oh, I see before me a new horizon. I wanna know, can you show me? I wanna know about these strangers like me. Tell me more, please show me. Something's familiar about these strangers like me. Come with me now to see my world, where there's beauty beyond your dreams. Can you feel the things I feel right now with you? Take my hand, there's a world you need to know. I wanna know, can you show me? I wanna know about these strangers like me. Tell me more, please show me. Something's familiar about these strangers like me. I wanna know.
Wow, thank you. That was really something. And that sense of adventure in that song. I want to know more about strangers like me. I want to go back to that great blue heron for a minute. in a reading from Wendell Berry. I sat one summer evening and watched a great blue heron make his descent from the top of the hill into the valley. He came down at a measured, deliberate pace, stately as always, like a dignitary going down the stairs. And then, at a point I judged to be about midway over the river, without at all varying his wing beat, he did a full backward turn in the air, a complete loop-de-loop. It could only have been a gesture of pure exuberance, of joy, a speaking of his sense of the evening, the day's fulfillment, and his descent homeward. He made just that one slow turn and then flew out of sight in the direction of the slough further down in the bottom. The movement was incredibly beautiful, at once exultant and stately, a benediction on the evening and on the river and on me. It seemed so perfectly to confirm the presence of a free, non-human joy in the world. So when discussion was opened up between me and the worship committee about me coming back to West Side to speak this morning, I was so excited. I mean, it's been 4 years since I've been here on any sort of regular basis. And I started thinking about what's the message I want to bring. But I also started thinking about August of 2018. In some ways, it feels like those 4 years flew by. Hardly blinked an eye. And on the other side, it's been a long, hard 4 years. We have been through COVID. Westside here has been through COVID. And I also know that when I was last here in person in this pulpit, there was so much anticipation, there was so much joy. The interim was winding up, and you were waiting for Reverend Christopher to come from Canada, and there was all this immigration chaos. And there was so much hope for the future. And then when I heard that Reverend Christopher was leaving, I could only wonder what was the weight on your heart about that? What was that transition like? What was it like and about for everyone? I know if you're newer, you didn't go through all of these stages at Westside, but if you're someone who's been here for a while, there was an enormous investment in bringing longer-term ministry here. But let me also say, when I started to hear that, I knew you are a courageous group, you are a ferocious group. You are engaged as a community with one another and with community out there. So I knew that this was probably a time of reflection, probably grief, but it wasn't going to stop you. It is not going to stop you. But I still know that as we go through these huge transitions, it takes a toll on our bodies, on our minds, our hearts, our emotions. And so I have been through COVID thinking about play as a part of a spiritual practice. And I thought I just wanted to come and share those thoughts with you this morning. I think we can all agree that play has been around for a long, long time. And it's probably been part of the human experience, and animal experience for that matter, maybe even from the beginning. A few days ago, I was watching Cooper hawks just sailing around on the thermals. They weren't hunting. They weren't doing flight training for their baby hawks that had just got out of the nest. They were just up there for the fun of it. I also saw kids running and laughing outside the library. It looked like they were at some sort of summer day camp, and this was the end of the day, and the sprinklers were on, or a sprinkler was on.
and I could hear people walking and talking together. I was thinking about my own play, being back with my cycling group for a while in between my ministries, and my other practice of play is painting. That's my solo practice of play. So I'm not an expert, but I consulted someone who allegedly was. I looked at the work of Dutch linguist and historian Johan Huizinga, who took a professional interest in adults at play. He published in the 1930s and wrote a work called Homo Ludens. I'm going to read a short section from this, and before I do, I want to preface this with saying this guy needed to study play less and do play more, because it's excessively wordy and uptight. Play is an activity which proceeds within certain limits of time and space in a visible order, according to the rules freely accepted, and outside the sphere of necessity and material utility. The play mood is one of rapture and enthusiasm, and is sacred or festive in accordance with that occasion. A feeling of exaltation and tension accompanies the action. I can agree with a chunk of that, but before I was a minister, I was a social worker. And I spent a fair amount of my time reading social science because I was kind of scholarly about my social work. So I have to, based on what I read, I have to disagree that play isn't a necessity. It is absolutely a necessity. That's why children do it so early and so well. And I will say the more stressful your life, the more necessary play is. And the other thing you should know about Johan Huizinga was he was studying play in the context of medieval, Renaissance, and late Baroque period play. So he's studying people of leisure, not the peasants in the field. And let me say, in general, in my life, I feel like I would have more in common with peasants in the field than I would with the people in the late Baroque period living lives of leisure. I know that for children and humans and other species, play creates fitness. It hones skills that the young need for later in life. They gain mastery, and they play for the pure pleasure of it. I really enjoyed the twirling. Brain and social science research also tells us that interactive play makes humans more empathetic, and that there's a strong correlation between playful activity and success later in life, such as adult competence in vocation. And at the core of that theory is that play allows us to imagine things we couldn't normally imagine. It allows our creativity to kind of run wild. And I'm going to say, if you're someone who's prone to workaholism or perfectionism, you have a really high need for control and predictability, then you need more play in your day and your week than others. And I think we all needed a sense of control during COVID and a sense of predictability. I think we craved that even more. So play can actually decrease the demands we make on ourselves. It shuts off our monkey chatter in our minds and allows creativity to come forward, and it allows our bodies to rest from all that cortisol production. I also read the book Deep Play by Diane Ackerman because I love reading her descriptions. She's probably most known for her book, A Natural History of the Senses, which I think came out about 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago. But in Deep Play, she talks about her fascination with animals and humans. She talks a lot about the play of crows. She goes off to watch penguins play in Antarctica. And then she goes north to watch the dolphins play. She says when we are involved in play, we are gripped by the experience. I just want to tell you as an aside, when they were off playing with the dolphins on this boat, she's with a big group of people, And the dolphins honed in on one woman. They kept coming back, and they kept trying to do this communication with this one woman. And as they mused about what could this be that these dolphins are trying to bring about this interaction, and it turned out this woman was pregnant. And they wondered if the dolphin sonar actually knew that. So the dolphins were paying her special care. I'm sure they were gripped in that experience. Ackerman also kind of broke it down that 4 things can happen to us during play when we're truly engaged in play. She says we lay aside our sense of self. We shed time's continuum. We can somewhat, at least periodically, ignore some types of pain. And we are in the absolute presence, experiencing an ordinary miracle. What she's saying underneath that is there's no analyzing, there's no explaining, there's no questioning, there's no logic, there's no worry, just being completely open to whatever might be unfolding. She describes that with life's spectacles and underpinnings, just letting them happen. Have an affectionate curiosity. Take in the whole bustling enterprise of creation. And it doesn't matter what prompts the feeling. You can be sitting at home watching the birds. You can be down at Lincoln Park taking in a tumultuous sunset. And when it happens, we know it because we feel something has been revealed, and we feel gratitude. We don't need to talk about it. We don't need to say anything. In her life, she beholds it as a form of prayer. And this is where I started thinking about play as a spiritual practice. And if prayer doesn't fit for you, think of it as a moving meditation. So quite recently, I noticed this for myself, but with much greater awareness. And probably just a few of you out there know that I'm a competent cyclist, and I have been, I will proudly say, since the age of 7. I can't remember when the training wheels came off, but I can remember I got a new bike, and cycling became my favorite form of play. I'm not speedy, but I'm steady, and I can finish 30, 35 miles and still have something left. For a long time, every Thursday, I cycled with friends, and I just arranged my entire work week around having Thursdays off. It was my Sabbath day. And the cycling was a prayer. I love the endorphins that come with cycling, so there is that whole physiological explanation. My senses start taking in everything, the sights, the smells, that sound of the pedals moving around and around, the nasty taste of the sports drink. Yeah, and just feeling, all that kinesthetic feeling in the body. So a few months ago, I'm riding out on one of my favorite places to ride, and it's 14 miles to the turnaround, and it's a slight uphill almost the entire way. And that particular day, there was a headwind in my face. And so I'm trying to go uphill, 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 and the wind is trying to push me back, 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 back. Now, this is not my favorite form of cycling. I can manage the hill, or I can manage the wind, but it's hard to manage both at the same time. So it didn't feel like play, because I'm working really hard. But I make that turn, and I'm heading back. I'm not like the horse running for the barn. I mean, I want to get back to the car because I know then I can drive to the espresso stand, but I'm not in any huge hurry to get there. That's way, way, way off in my thoughts. So I'm in my big gears and I'm really enjoying it. I'm smiling, I notice a chipmunk, I'm seeing the wildflowers, and then I see a cyclist coming toward me, and he yells over, "Wow, you must be loving that tailwind," because he's going uphill into the wind. Now, pre-COVID, I would have said to him, yes, and I earned it. I don't like that statement, I earned it. Because we live in a culture that tells you you always have to earn it. So there's 3 things in that little statement, yes, and I earned it. And that would have been my pre-COVID statement. Now, the first thing about it, I'm just giving him a little information. It's like, hey, yeah, I've already been up. I've made the turn. It gets better. And sometimes cyclists will, and hikers, you'll stop and ask each other, what's the trail like? Is it muddy all the way? Whatever. It's just giving off information. But secondly, I hear that I earned the ease. I'm explaining that the experience was possible because I gutted through the hard parts, and fun was the reward for suffering. It wasn't there for its own sake like it should have been. And third, I think it's also a statement about self-esteem. Do we always have to earn it, or can we just be enough, like our Unitarian Universalist first principle? We're enough. We're worthy of ease. So now my response, I say yes, and it feels great. So I learned something in COVID. I didn't have to earn it. I didn't have to be worthy. I can just love it. I can just play. Being in that moment took me beyond time and worry and grocery lists and sermon writing and ferries and COVID. I was just living in that very moment of, yeah, it feels great. And the joy of seeing another person on the bike trail. So not having to earn it also reminds me of the Mary Oliver poem, where she talks about, I think it's Wild Geese, that we don't have to crawl on our knees in the desert for 100 miles. We can just love what we love. I enjoyed Diane Ackerman's book about deep play, and I especially enjoyed the dolphins and the penguins. Both Oliver and Ackerman are saying, love what you love and engage in it wholly. That's with a W-H, and it's also just with an H. I found a little bit of these stories to be elitist and discriminatory. It assumes you have money and time to visit amazing places. She and I also assume an able-bodiedness, because we can't all play and run and bike and go on an African photo safari to see giraffes. That's why we also need to make room in our lives for play in a form of art and sexuality and music and even worship as play. During these uncertain times as we come out of COVID, having multiple ways of playing is really important because it helps us in our healing. So I'm saying to you, build a repertoire of play so that you can go to different things depending on your mood or your circumstances. But I want to talk about worship as play because this is what we're here for this morning. Ackerman talks about play as being visual and musical. She talks about the verbal arts, and she's thinking about like recitation of poetry. But I also thought about the really deep, meaningful conversation you might have with someone where time stands still, and you laugh together, and you share stories. I think that can also be play. She says, when you let yourself be swept up in that play, you'll feel balanced, creative, and focused. It'll bring about transcendence. And she says it brings such a passion that thrill-seeking becomes explicable, creativity possible, and religion inevitable. So maybe religion seems like an unlikely example of playing, but when you start thinking about it, our rites and our festivals, you come to see the elements. Religious ritual has music, it has beauty. I came in this morning to see these flowers. And it was so striking to me. I fell into almost a moving meditation of the moisture and the delicacy of some of the flowers juxtaposed against the thistles. And it became a play of color and texture and even temperature. It felt like they would hold temperature differently because of the moisture. So we have this beauty in religious ritual. And we have song that has this ecstatic feeling for us. And we have the smiles of one another as we greeted each other when we came in here this morning. We had meditation. I think all those elements swallow time if we're really experiencing them instead of doing our grocery list in our head. So when we seek worship, I think we are seeking answers to mysteries, cosmic mysteries, and other mysteries. Our fourth principle tells us to be in a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. So worship, if thought of as play, takes us from our day-to-day thoughts into celebrating glories and mysteries that we find in life. It invites transcendence. Come here and find that deeper meaning. You only have to take away one thing today from the kids or the flowers or the music or the sermon. One thing gives you transcendence. So as we go forth in these times of uncertainty, again, just start building that list of deep play for yourself and maybe pick up some new things that you haven't done before. Pick up a new board game you do. Pick up a new, hike. Pick up watching kids play at the park. Take up painting or sketching maybe. I took up painting and I will tell you, I'm not particularly great at it, but I love it. It's a go-to thing because time stands still and my brain shuts off everything else. Go out and find Wendell Berry's Heron. Play so that your mind isn't always working on solving a problem. Just let loose and enjoy. So let this be our prayer today. And I've adapted this from Frederick and Mary Bresat. Hearing someone laugh is my cue to practice play. A swing set or a child laughing reminds me that all ground is a sacred playground. Whenever I can, I vow to pause in those moments of timelessness and creativity. Blessed is the giver of life that has provided play as a way to celebrate the lightness of our being. Amen.
Thank you so much, Reverend Margo. That was inspiring for me. You know, for me, nature is an invitation to play very often. And sometimes I forget. You know, I go on regular walks through Lincoln Park. I live just a couple of blocks from an entrance. And sometimes I just am walking, you know, and it's fine. I'm feeling good. Lots of times in my head, I'm thinking about things and I'm giving my body exercise. But other times I'll just pause and I'll just say, okay, just open up. Look, what's here? And there's something about that magical moment, that moment of curiosity, what's here? You know, it's like the song, I Want to Know, you know? And then I start engaging with this world around me differently. And so this song that we're going to be singing, and I invite you all to rise in body or spirit, is one of my favorites. It's For the Earth Forever Turning, which is hymn number 163, if any of you like to look at the music along with it, but the words will be right up here. And I invite you to sing quietly behind your masks is what we're suggesting people do during this time period. Thank you very much. For the earth forever turning, for the skies, for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures in their silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the sun, for rain and thunder, for the seasons' harmony, for our lives, for all creation, sing we our joyful praise to thee. For the world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In our joy we sing, returning home to our blue-green hills of earth.
Thank you, Scott, all of our musicians, for bringing our time together this week to an end. And now, as Jill releases our flame, seems like it's wanting to release itself here in a second. May we go into this week blessed and blessing the world. We all together hold us in our love as you go.
All right, let's rise once more in body or spirit and give a rousing amen. Here we go. Quietly behind your masks.
Rousing in front.
Amen.